during the week, as well as you know, a subject that has been recurrent that might be of interest to any of you out there. Hi, everybody. I'm trying to do Facebook as well as okay. All right, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Oh, very good, very good. Let me see. Okay. For whatever reason, I am not seeing your questions as usual. I'm having some technical difficulties. Seems that these days. Okay. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about you know, how to troubleshoot your cycle. It seems that in the last few weeks we've had a few challenging patients and cycles, and I always like to I always like to there we go. Awesome, awesome. All right, here we go. Finally. All right. So some of the challenging cycle this month and this week. Last week I talked about the luteal phase start, and I will go a little further into that subject since it seems to be recurring these days as we are having some of those ladies come in and present with their own challenges. So last week I was describing the cases in which you go in for your day 3 baseline and you already have a lead follicle more than 10 millimeters. And an acceptable protocol would be to trigger that follicle, allow it to grow to a point that it can be triggered, and then have a luteal phase, or do a suppression, so a loop run flare-up, and then go into stimulation once those follicles are quiet down. So 2 choices: trigger your dominant follicle if you have a follicle during early cycle, or do a loop run 2 to 4 weeks, quiet down the ovaries, and then jump into stimulation. But what happens if, let's say, you do trigger and you come back and you have already another lead follicle? So this week we had somebody come in after trigger. She came 3 days after her trigger, and she had 3 sort of lead follicles and maybe 2 that were kind of behind. So with her, we decided, hey, let's use those and stimulate those that she has, and then do something called a dual stim. That might be also a choice, you know, to consider. So, and even on a lead, like let's say you have 2 or 3 follicles that are a little too big on a baseline, well, maybe we can actually stimulate those, retrieve, and then jump into a dual stim cycle. And I've seen those work on certain occasions. I had also a lady come in, and we gave her letrozole and high dose FSH to start. Okay, she actually had a great baseline, and her biggest follicle was 7 millimeters, which is great for baseline. And then we noticed that her follicles did not grow. So we thought, I mean, is this a poor response? Like after 5 days of, the letrozole and the Gonalef with menopur stem, and so she was in 10 of letrozole. For those of you that have done this before, 200 of Gonalef and 150 of menopur, and she had about 5 or 6 follicles that the largest made it to about 8.5 millimeters. And so we were debating what to do with her. So at the time we decided, let's just, stop the meds and bring her back in about 3-4 days, see what happens, potentially trigger, and then start again. Well, we had a little surprise because the moment we stopped the meds, those follicles grew. So she arrived today with her follicles had, from not growing on the medication to suddenly all of them kind of growing, and her biggest follicle was 13 and the other ones were between 10 and 11. So we quickly switched over, and it actually has been her best cycle. She did do priming, but now she's had multiple failed IVF, and now we could be potentially seeing 5 eggs for her, maybe even 6. So we left her alone, put her on Cetrotide, and we're going to bring her back, trigger, retrieve, and then go into a dual stim. So this IVF is kind of diagnostic and therapeutic at the same time. There's an art to it. So I wanted to share different versions of how to do this, such that you don't lose your faith. Okay, everybody is different, and it's a matter of getting creative. So I'll back off a little bit and talk about what is a typical IVF cycles for those of you that don't quite understand what I'm talking about. So in any stimulation cycle, we generally go with the first day of your period, and it doesn't matter if it's stimulation with oral medication. Some of you have already done that, but also stimulation with oral and injections, or injections only. In a traditional straightforward cycle, we have a baseline on the 3rd day of your period. Your ovaries at that time should have multiple follicles that are small, okay? And that is in some areas the antral count that they talk about. So you should have 5-6 smaller follicles on both ovaries as they're getting recruited. And those are the ones that we are hoping to recruit and stimulate. At that time, then you start your medication. So I'm talking about a typical stimulation cycle with whichever medication you use. So day 1 of your period, you call the office. Day 3 of the period, you come in for baseline ultrasound and blood work. And then you start the injections. If you're doing oral medication, then it's usually 5 days of oral medication. If you're doing oral medication on any form of injection, then that's when you start your injections until your eggs are ready for trigger. So we trigger to provoke ovulation, and then you do IUI 24 to 36 hours later, or you go for your retrieval if you're doing IVF. However, for some of you, especially the low reserve patients and the very, very, very resistant PCOS, are sometimes hard to stimulate, okay, and create that scenario that I'm describing. So those are the patients that I am talking about, and that I started talking about last week with the luteal phase stimulation, or the double stim cycle. With the double stim cycle, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is definitely worth trying, because even if you get 5 eggs in the first round and you get 2 to 3 eggs the second round, back to back, then that gives you, 7 to 8 eggs to work with. And maybe in other cycles, you either failed or you had poor egg quality, or it had to be canceled altogether. So this is an alternative for some of you that have had challenges in your stimulation cycle. Another case is people that tend to ovulate through the cetrotide or the ganirelix. And that would be one, to either do low Lupron throughout the entire cycle. That would be about 10 milligrams of Lupron every day together with your injections, or do low dose letrozole throughout the cycle as well, in order to improve the suppression of the ovaries so you don't ovulate. And those are the cases where they ovulate through the antagonist. All right. So I wanted to put out there a few different challenging cases that came up today. This last few days, this week, and give you different options for you to discuss with your doctor or myself if you want to reach out to me and have a look at your cycle. Okay. All right. So let's see some of your questions. Methylfolate is great. We prefer methylfolate because of the high incidence of MTHFR gene mutation. So if you have either 1 or 2 copies, then methylfolate is the way to go. And that's why we just give everybody methylfolate, which is the active form of folic acid. There's a Chinese herb called fertility tonic. Have you heard of it? So it's probably a brand of a combination of herbs. In Chinese medicine, most of the times they believe in synergistic relationships and potentiation. So I'm not familiar with that particular tonic, but I would love to see what it has. Having slow rising ACG, all right, so if you have, I don't quite understand your question very well. Low rising ACG early in pregnancy, if it's less than 60% rise, it could be a sign of an abnormal pregnancy. So I would hold tight and do an ultrasound as soon as possible, and kind of follow up to see the development. You said that your TSH was high at the time you got your early pregnancy test. If the TSH, if the thyroid is very out of whack, it can't potentiate issues with the pregnancy, but it really has to be very, very high for it to affect it really bad. So, let's pray that it's an okay pregnancy, but until I see a heartbeat, we'll cross our fingers. Does the ACG trigger shot make period late? It can, because if you have short luteal phase, like the second half of the cycle, it might make it a little longer. Okay. I had a failed second transfer. Do you recommend trying for third right away or wait a cycle in between? Any suggestion to HEP implantation? I'm transferring my last 2 next time. So that is an interesting question. If you had 2 failed transfers, again, troubleshooting your cycle, which is the theme of tonight's discussion, we have to see what has been done and what can be changed and what has not been addressed. One, at this point, we can't talk about the quality of the egg and the sperm because you already have embryos, but are we dealing with a uterine issue? Are we dealing with chronic infection, inflammation? Okay. Are we dealing with a coagulation disorder or a genetic issue that has not been addressed? Are we dealing with a dysynchronicity So an ERA might be a good thing for you to do, just to make sure that you're doing the transfer at the right time. Some women will need extra progesterone and some women will need less progesterone. And the only way to do that is with a endometrial receptivity assay, or ERA, which is a mock cycle. It's almost like a mock FET transfer. You have to do all the meds and then do the biopsy at the 5th day of progesterone, all right, or 121 hours to be exact. So those are the things that I would recommend, you know, spicing it up. How about an endoscratching PRP? Just kind of evaluating what happened during transfer 1 and 2 and how can it be optimized. If you're a donor, if your donor or you cannot take birth control, how do you sync our cycles? That's a toughie. You have to be on some sort of medication. So if it's an issue of the estrogen component, then you can be on Provera, just high dose progesterone, in order to try to control your cycle such that you can start together. Okay, I have to, but I will be trying embryo glue on my transfer next Wednesday. Hey, you know, if what you did before didn't work, then we have to, you know, spice it up. If you do not do baby glue, well, maybe try the baby glue next time. Again, what has not been done, what has not been addressed, what has not been checked. Those are the things that after an embryo transfer, I'll be looking at. And don't forget, if you did not do any priming, are we dealing with a DNA fragmentation issue, especially if it's not a PGT tested embryo? Do we need to, you know, kind of consider those things in case you have to do another retrieval? Okay. So the baby glue, a lot of the things that we do in the fertility world is experimental. I don't have a lot of experience with the baby glue. There's some anecdotal information out there that it might work. For those of you who know me a little more, I'm a PRP girl. So, you know, it's kind of things to try. You know, they're tools in the toolbox. And at CNY, for those of you that have been with us for a very, very long time, we want to help you. So we will provide anything and everything we can possibly do to help you. A lot of fertility clinics, they're only provide things that are proven or widely accepted. Same thing as they will send you away. You know, I mean, those of you that know what I'm talking about, it's like they choose their population and they're very, you know, straightforward. So I don't really want to talk bad about the baby glue. I love having tools in my toolbox. It's another choice. All of this is experimental, really. I mean, there's even other things that are not quite approved, like the LIT that can be done in Canada, but we are definitely hoping to bring more things to help you in your journey to expand your family. Let me see one of the Instagram questions. What can we use to raise progesterone after ovulation? It depends. Sometimes by doing a stimulation cycle, I have seen where people do letrozole or Clomid and the progesterone post-ovulation, it's a lot better. Combining that with BRP, if you want to stay more natural, you can do a letrozole cycle, and then after day 20, 21, add some chaste tree. Chaste tree is a natural herb that will increase progesterone naturally. Or if you want to go in the medication route, then there's definitely progesterone supplementation after day 21 in order to keep you pregnant. Okay. All right. okay, my eggs degenerated again, so I'm done trying with my own eggs. Yes, I think that donor eggs is a very personal decision. And I know that what I tell everybody is the following. Donor eggs are always going to be a choice, okay? It's going to be there. You can buy eggs. Whoever's going to donate them, whatever age they are, you know, there's always going to be somebody young that will donate the eggs. So see that as always your backup plan. But us as women, we like to try. You know, it's a process of being able to know you tried, and you tried until you felt ready. But ultimately, we want to have that baby. But in the back of your mind, you know, 10 years down the road, in the privacy of your spirit and your soul, you want to know that you tried everything and you closed that chapter in peace. So, you know, I salute you for trying. I know you've tried a few times, and you know, we'll be here to help you with your donor eggs. This journey is over when we don't breathe anymore. The journey of life, the journey of fertility. So I'm a believer that believing is achieving. So don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. It's very, very important. Do you recommend fresh or frozen transfer PCOS? Not because you have PCOS, you have to do one or the other. PCOS is just a condition of the ovary. What determines whether you can do fresh or frozen is based on a few things. One, personal preferences. Some people know they want to do frozen, so it's not an issue. And some people, they want to do fresh, okay? Two, at the time of retrieval, it's very important to have a low progesterone and a trilaminar endometrium. So when they do your scan, they have to scan you to get the eggs out. Then the doctor can let you know if it's a good idea or not to do a fresh transfer. And then the other thing is, are you interested in testing the embryos or not? If you are interested in testing the embryos, then fresh is not a choice. So if I were to do this myself, I would try a fresh if possible. Fresh transfers in general have a 30% chance of success. That's still a lot. That's definitely a lot more than the bedroom. So if you have enough embryos, there's no contraindication, your retrieval was smooth, why not do a fresh? Okay. All right. And yes, you can send me your combination of herbs for me to look at, and I can definitely discuss that with you. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Maribel Verdiales, Dr. V. And you can write me through Messenger at Maribel Verdiales MD and send me that information that way. My email at CNY, it's mverdiales on cnyfertility.com. I prefer that you guys communicate through Messenger. It's a lot easier for me. It pops on my phone, and if it's an easy question, then you can get an easy answer. If you need medication refills or appointments, I would prefer you contact the nurses because then it's going to be easier for you. I know that sometimes if you can't get through the phone lines, send me a quick message and I'll pass it on to the girls to call you. Down in Atlanta, I always like to write the number is 315-469-8700, extension 2274 to 283. Okay, the Wellness Center is the direct line is 770-266-0933. Okay. You can also reach out to Jenny. So it's J. Perez. Okay. She's our financial advisor and she is bilingual. CNY fertility.com. All right, I was wondering about TSH levels. My TSH has been historically low. At baseline was high. Well, it depends. It depends on the whole picture. So Ms. Bree is telling us that her TSH have been fluctuating quite a bit. Even though it's a big fluctuation from 0.6 to 3.11, I would not sweat it. If it looks good, go ahead and do a transfer. If the stars align, do a fresh, and if you can't, don't sweat it either. It's going to be okay. Let's see here. So somebody's telling me it's injectable progesterone only an option for someone who has history of BV and yeast. Somebody that has, actually I had a case this morning that has a similar scenario. So somebody with recurrent bacterial vaginosis and a lot of vaginal infections, you can still do vaginal progesterone, and I'll go into the progesterone selection for CNY in a second, but you can still do vaginal progesterone. It's not going to interfere. However, you want to really check to see if you're not dealing with chronic endometritis, especially BV can be very sneaky. So we might want to address your recurrent history of vaginal infections with prolonged antibiotics, even do a very good endo scratch in the office. I like doing an endo scratch with a PRP and antibiotics, and then do probiotics in order to reestablish your natural flora, because the good bugs are the ones that are going to keep the bad bugs away. So you can do injections, and going back to the CNY selection of progesterones, we double cover. Okay, we like to do 2 sources of progesterone. Injectable, it is what's traditionally used, and there's plenty of research to show it's the best delivery system. A lot of the research was on preterm labor patients and patients with history of premature delivery, and over and over. And I know you guys hate the progesterone injections, but it is the best delivery system with the most consistent level of progesterone. And for those of you who follow your progesterones, our hormones go up and down. So it's the best way to keep it above a certain level. We cover with either creams, most of the times, vaginal injections. So for example, if you don't want to be putting stuff up the hoo-ha, you can definitely do the progesterone cream as your second source of progesterone. And the reason that we do that is in case there's a problem with one of the 2 delivery system, allergic reaction or anything else, we got you covered. Okay, the last thing that we need is that we have a potentially successful transfer or pregnancy, and because we don't have enough progesterone in our systems, we lose it. Okay, very good. I'm sorry about some of the issues that you guys are having. Our centers are crazy overwhelmed, which is a blessing, and I'm very excited about that. But I know that, in the Atlanta office, we've had a big leap from being partially closed to having everybody up and running, and we're trying to accommodate all of you. So if you can't get in touch with CNY, you're always welcome to call, through the portal, through email. Again, the Atlanta office is 315-469-8700, extension 2274 and 2283. And I would recommend for all of you, especially the travel patients, to kind of create a relationship with the clinic that you're going to. And it's easier if you have a few nurses and 1 or 2 up to 3 providers that you get comfortable with and that get familiar with your case, for you to call them directly where they are, you're going to have less glitches through your journey. And absolutely, you are all welcome to message me through Messenger. Again, Maribel Verdiales MD is the my Facebook page for my patients and clients. And if you have a question that is easy to address, I will go ahead and answer. Otherwise, we can arrange a phone consultation, and I'll make sure that the staff gets your information. Okay, 2 PG tested embryos or 1 after 4 miscarriage and 37-year-old. I don't quite understand what you're trying to tell me, Christine. So you want somebody that wants to do herbal supplements for PCOS with facial hair and high DHEAS. The first thing is we need to get your insulin levels down. So a keto diet, I know it sounds like, oh my God, keto again. So a keto diet, it's going to be very, very important. It's a natural way of leveling out some of your, hormone imbalances. The other great little herb that I like for PCOS is chaste tree. Like I would mention before, it naturally increases your progesterone. So it naturally helps you ovulate. Saw palmetto will bring your testosterone down. Ashwagandha also, it's a great little herb for stabilizing the adrenal, together with licorice root. Okay, so Miss Lutus, if you want to talk to me a little bit more about natural ways to get your PCOS under control, you can always message me again through Messenger, and I'll make sure to pass it on to the girls to get you on my schedule. So you've had 4 miscarriages despite of tested embryos. So several things. PGS tested embryos, it's kind of an interesting scenario. It's like damn if you do and damn if you don't. Tested embryos, the biopsy itself could damage the embryos. So that's kind of in the back of our minds. A normal PGS tested embryo does not mean that you're going to have a pregnancy. I see a lot of biopsy embryos that actually fail. So in order for me to help you a little more, I would have to look at your entire scenario. It applies. I mean, why are you having miscarriages? We need to check. Are we dealing with a chronic infection? Are we dealing with the synchronicity of the embryo to the lining? Are we dealing with endometriosis? Are we dealing with simply the embryos, even though that they're tested normal? There might be something in that process of biopsy that they're not adhering. Something as simple as adding CBD oil, it's going to help with implantation. So what can we do for you so you don't keep having the miscarriages? That's the question. DHEA for PCOS, is it ever done? What blood test is needed? I do not recommend giving DHEA to anyone that has not been proved to have a deficiency. DHEA is a testosterone produced by the adrenal gland, and too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Why does it help certain women improve egg quality? It's because older women with low ovarian reserve a lot of times will have low DHEA. I like to see the DHEA around 125, 150. Anything below that, we can definitely supplement. Now, 75 milligrams of DHEA every day is a lot. that will give you a beard. So you want to be a lot more gentle when you supplement the DHEA. If you do a very high dose, you want to do it for a very short time and then taper down and then retest to make sure you're not going to the other extreme. Okay? All right, so I'll grab a few more questions. Do you know if taking Provera for 5 days or 10 days make a difference? It depends. If your estrogen levels were very high at baseline, you might want to use that progesterone a little longer. If what you're trying to do is provoke a period in order to start stimulation, you can do 5 to 7 days if you respond very well to that progesterone. Okay. So CNY is refusing to send a prescription to a U.S. pharmacy on behalf because I am international. I really doubt that. My first consult this morning, she lives in Hong Kong, and I sent her prescription to her parents who are in Georgia, and then they shipped her medication. And we communicated great through FaceTime this morning. It was 8 p.m. in Hong Kong, 8 a.m. in Atlanta. So you are welcome to make an appointment to talk to me. Just again, 315-469-8700, extension 2274 and 2283. You can message me with your information. Make sure you add your full legal name, date of birth, address, email, and phone number, obviously a phone number. And then I'll pass it on to the front desk to reach out to you and make an appointment, okay? Hey, Darlene. All right. Well, very good. Very good. I did have a few more questions. I know that on the Instagram, somebody was asking, what do we do on the wellness side? So the Atlanta office, all of the CNY offices, I believe, at least for sure, Albany and Syracuse are holistic centers. And of course, they have their own flavor. In New York, it's mostly the Syracuse office will have massage and acupuncture. They're big in acupuncture. I work very closely with Jennifer in the Syracuse office. They have like a full med spa and wellness center, supplements, the whole 9 yards. Okay. Albany also has acupuncturist and massage therapists as well. In both centers, they provide a fertility massage. Down in Atlanta, we have a very similar setup. We don't have an acupuncturist on staff. We have a chiropractor. We have massage therapists. She also will provide, for those of you interested, fertility massage. And I am a naturopath, so I love, you know, having more and more tools in the toolbox. And for those of you that see me on the GYN side, I am the only one doing GYN. I like the diversity, and that's kind of my background, just women's health in general. So essentially, you just need to be a girl, even though I shouldn't say that too much these days, because I do see occasional males that are affiliated to our patients. And now that we're doing testicular PRP, we're seeing more boys as well. So thank you very, very much for joining me tonight. This is for you with love, and I hope to see you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. For those of you that did not get to ask me the questions, again, you can message me, Maribel Verdiales, V as in victory, and I will try to address your question, or I will pass on the information so we can get you on the schedule as soon as possible and we can discuss your particular case. May you be blessed, and remember, this universe is for those that are brave and courageous and persistent. Persistence, okay? Bye-bye. Have a great rest of your week.